Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to today's reading session from the Bhagavad Gita. And I'm going to share the screen. Please give me a second. Here we go. I hope you can see the screen I'm sharing with you. First of all, a prayer to Srila Prabhupada by reciting this pranam mantra. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text number 8 to 12. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust, we have got this opportunity of reading this scripture. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I have to sip some water. I'm back to my desk now, going to begin reading. Reading from chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text number 8 to 12. And I believe, first of all, we have to go through the word meaning. Then it will be helpful to understand the shloka when we read it. Amanitvam means humility. Adambhitvam means pridelessness. Adam, dambha. Opposite of dambha is adambhitvam, pridelessness. Himsa is violence. Ahimsa is non-violence. Shantihi, tolerance. Arjavam, simplicity. So if we want to say simplicity, we have to say arjavam. Just example. Acharya, upasanam. Approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Acharya means guru. Can be Shiksha Guru, can be Diksha Guru. Acharya Upasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Shaucham, cleanliness. It is very important. When we perform deity worship, we have to maintain shaucham, cleanliness. Shaucham is required externally and internally. We have to be clean internally and externally. Shaucham, cleanliness. Sthiryam, sthir, from sthir, this word sthiryam has come. Sthir means fixed in one place. Sthiryam, steadfastness. Steadfastness. Atma vinigraha, self-control. It is very important, one of the most important qualities for spiritual progress. Atma Vinigraha. These are all the symptoms of knowledge. Atma Vinigraha, self-control. Indriya Artheshu, in the matter of senses. Vairagyam, renunciation. Anahankara. Ahankar means false ego, pride. Ahankar. Ahankar means pride or false ego. Anahankara means being without false egoism. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Janma, very easy. Of birth. Janma means of birth. Mrityu means death. Jara means old age. Vyadhi and disease. By the way, going back to Janma, Janma means birth, but in the context of the verse we are going to recite, Janma means of birth. Vyadhi means disease, and in this context it is and disease. Dukkha, of the distress. Dosha, fault. Anudarshanam, observing. Anudarshanam, dukkha dosha anudarshanam. Dukkha dosha anudarshanam, observing. Anudarshanam means observing. Asakti, being without attachment. Asakti, being without attachment. Not asakti, this is asakti. Asakti, being without attachment. Anavishwangaha. Anavishwangaha, being without association. Putra. Putra means son or for son in this context. Dara, putra dara. Son, dara means wife. Dara. Griha adishu, home, etc. Nityam, very easy, constant. Cha, very easy, which means also. Sama chittatvam. Sama chittatvam, equilibrium. Chitta is our mind, our consciousness. Sama means Sama means in balance. So sama chittatvam, mentally in equilibrium state, in proper mental balance. Ishta, the desirable. Anishta, the undesirable. Upatishu, upapatishu, having obtained. Mai, unto me. Cha, also. Ananya yogena, by unalloyed devotional service. Bhakti, devotion. Abhya vicharini, without any break. Vivikta, too solitary. Desha, places. Sevitvam, aspiring. Aratihi, being without attachment. Jnana, jana, not jnana, jana, samsadi, to people in general. Adhyatma, pertaining to the self. Jnana, in knowledge. Nityatvam, constancy. Tattva jnana, of knowledge of the truth. Artha, for the object. From this artha, Artha Shastra comes. artha, for the object. In this context, artha means for the object. Darshanam, philosophy. Etat, all this. Jnanam, knowledge. Iti, thus. Proktam, declared. Ajnanam, ignorance. Yat, that which. Ataha, from this. Anyatha, other. Now, let's recite the verse. This is again from chapter 13, texts 8 to 12. Amanitvam adhambitvam ahimsa chantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःख दोषानुदर्शनम्. असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समाचित्तत्वम् इष्टानुष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा. Translation. So, what is knowledge? Krishna defines knowledge by these examples, and besides anything else besides these is ignorance. So, what are the knowledge? What are the symptoms of knowledge? Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of the sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So I just would like to clarify one point. Here, Krishna says, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. There might be some confusion amongst some of us. Krishna does not mean that we have to abandon home, wife, children, or husband, etc. Sometimes ladies want to join temple, or men want to leave family and home. Krishna does not recommend that. Krishna says what it means is, instead of being entangled with the family, use your family and home for the pleasure of Krishna. for spiritual gain, for spiritual realization, for cultivating spiritual knowledge. So that way we are not entangled with our family and home. So what we can do, we can utilize whatever we have, family, home, for the spiritual advancement. That's what Krishna meant. Now, going to read purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. So continuing, but actually this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. So this is very important conclusion here. We can say this verse helps us or shows us the guidance how to get out of those entanglement of those elements, material elements. The embodied soul, I'm continuing reading, the embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge is described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir abhyavicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So the ultimate aim of any knowledge is to achieve the unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. To achieve Seva Adhikar, Seva for Lord Krishna is our privilege. I mean, it is special opportunity. So to attain that is the ultimate aim of any knowledge. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. If one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Yashyati bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samaste suraha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Krishna clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility. What does humility mean? Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. If we are aspiring and hankering for an honor, recognition from others, that's not humility. I'm continuing reading. The material consumption of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material disruption. What is that material disruption? That material disruption is hankering for honor from others. That is purely in bodily platform. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles, and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a taste, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. How can one judge how far one is progressing? So these items, whether these items are our qualities or not, we can easily figure out whether we have progressed in spiritual life. Nonviolence. What is nonviolence? What does nonviolence mean? Now we are going to read next about nonviolence. Nonviolence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually nonviolence means not to put others into distress. So nonviolence also means not to put others in distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. This is very important point I would like to comment here. People in general are fallen into the ocean of ignorance. They are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life. They are materially engrossed. They are in deep dark well of maya or ignorance or illusion. And if one does not spread the transcendental knowledge to those people, one is practicing violence. So Srila Prabhupada here says that if we don't spread the message of Lord Krishna for the upliftment of people who are sunk into deep dark well of maya or ignorance, we are committing violence. So yena kena prakarena, we have to try to attract those people to Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we are committing violence. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. I would like to continue. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. So distributing this knowledge to people who are not familiar with Krishna consciousness is very helpful for them. They can be free from the shackle of Maya. They will be free from entanglement and they will be enlightened. That is non-violence. So that is non-violence. Now, let's read about tolerance. What does tolerance mean? So far, please remember, we read about humility first in the purport, then non-violence or ahimsa. Now, tolerance. What does tolerance mean? Sorry, what is tolerance in Sanskrit? Tolerance is shantihi. Shantihi is tolerance. Let me also put it here. This is shanti, tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to be an insult and dishonor from others. Okay. So this is very important point, eye opener. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. Tolerance means we have to be used to, we have to be able to accept insult and dishonor from others. Can we give any examples from the scriptures who tried to accept tolerance, who were tolerant, who were happily accepting insult and dishonor from others? One very good example is 5 Pandavas. Their wife was disrobed. They were exiled, sent to exile to forest, and their house was burned down, set afire. They were fed poison. They tolerated all that. And another example, can we remember another example? Another example is Prahlad Maharaj. He tolerated all the evil, vicious conducts of his father. Very threatening, life-threatening punishments he accepted. Prahlad accepted. We don't have to be in that extreme. We don't have capacity. But if someone is slightly rude to us, we have to accept it. We try to honor that. This is not only for others, this is for myself as well. I also need to follow this. I'm going to continue reading further. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. In the early days, Srila Prabhupada's disciples were going around for book distribution. They faced many insults, many bad reciprocation from public members. They were throwing eggs at them. They were arrested, whatnot. So they tolerated so many insults and dishonors. I'm continuing reading now. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Material nature is like that. Even a boy like Prahlad, who, who was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. Prahlad Maharaj tolerated his father. So there, there may be impediments to making, sorry, so there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Okay. So another example, dear devotees, is Ambarish Maharaj. When Durvasa Rishi tried to attack Ambarish Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj happily accepted. He didn't run away. He did not oppose that. He didn't pray. He just wanted to leave that at the mercy of the Lord. Whatever Lord desired would happen. That's what was his attitude. So Ambarish Maharaj tolerated. Now, dear devotees, that's about toleration. So far, we read about humility, tolerance. Now, non-violence also. We read about non-violence. Now, simplicity. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be straightforward, that he can disclose the real truth, even to an enemy. So, dear devotees, we should not have any duplicity. We should not have any diplomacy. We should be honest. If we make a mistake, we have to admit openly, honestly. For example, we shouldn't try to protect ourselves and explain that we are right. If we are mistaken, and if our heart is convinced, if we are convinced we have really made mistake, then we have to accept it. Sometimes it's one thing we may not know we are mistaken, but sometimes we know we made a mistake. We realize later on, and still we keep on and on explaining, justifying why we were right. I'm talking about myself. So simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth, even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services, so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. So, dear devotees, next point is about cleanliness. Cleanliness. Cleanliness in Sanskrit is called shaucham, as we read earlier. So far, what were the points we read? We read humility, right? And then we read about ahimsa, non-violence. Then we read about tolerance. Then we read about the importance of acharya upasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Then now we are going to read about cleanliness, shaucham. What does cleanliness mean? What does shaucham mean? We can find out from here. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. So to be clean is important to make advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we can be clean externally, shaucham. We can be clean or shaucham externally by taking a bath. To clean our heart, to clean our consciousness, we have to always remember Lord Krishna and chant Hare Krishna, as it is mentioned here. So to think of, one has to think of Krishna and always chant Hare Krishna. That is cleanliness. And what happens if we do that? If we do that, this process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Our mind has so much piles of dust of past karma. And by chanting Hare Krishna, it will be cleaned gradually. Now, next point is steadiness. Do you remember what was the Sanskrit word for steadiness? Sthiryam. Steadiness. What does steadiness mean? We can find out. We will find out from the following paragraph. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. One should be very determined to make progress in one's spiritual life. Without determination, one cannot make tangible progress. So, dear devotees, it is advised here that Srila Prabhupada advises that we should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Even in material world, in mundane platform, a doctor cannot be a doctor without being determined, without being disciplined. Many, many years disciplined and determined action. One day, a person achieves a goal like becoming a doctor, becoming a pilot, or being anything else, anything. To become a very good mridanga player, for example, we have to be determined and we have to follow the practice in a disciplined way, in a determined way. So determination is very important in all aspects, either material or spiritual. So here Prabhupada says, rightly says, steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. That's right. We don't achieve our goals in life because we lack determination. We lack steadiness. And self-control means that now self-control means that one should not accept anything without which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. Okay. Self-control means not accepting anything that can ruin our devotional service. For example, food which is not prasadam, that will ruin our devotional service, that will disturb our consciousness. So that is one example. Self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. Food is only one example. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. The senses, our senses are constantly dragging us. Come on, come on, come on. Enjoy this, enjoy that. Look at that beautiful dress in the showcase. Come on, buy that. Look at that beautiful shoes, pair of shoes. Go, buy that. You need that, man. You need that, man. So there are temptation, senses drag us. And so we have to be self-controlled. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. Are they necessary? Wearing a warm clothes is a necessity. But for the sake of wearing warm clothes, if we want to wear to display the brand we like, to show off how expensive I can wear, for that purpose, if we put our clothes on, that is not necessary. It doesn't mean that don't wear clothes, but don't wear just to show off the expensive brand. The senses should only be gratified to keep body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. Tongue is the most uncontrollable, the most difficult sense to control is tongue. We all know that. The tongue is engaged in gossiping. The tongue is engaged in tasting palatable food. Even if it is not prasadam, the tongue is very, very eager to taste that. I continue reading. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. So we have to regulate our eyes as far as possible only to see Krishna. Do not allow our eyes to see something else as far as possible, only to see the beautiful form of Krishna or his devotees. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. And remember, devotees, this is not only for you, this is for me as well. So that will control the eyes. Eyes can be controlled by allowing them to see only the form of Krishna. Similarly, the ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna. And so how do we engage our ears, hearing about Krishna and his devotees, and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna? So nose is used to smell the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service, and it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Devotional service is one of the most important objective we need to achieve. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other objects, but there is no other objects in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. So ahankar, false ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not this body and is spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Only if we understand we are not body but spirit soul. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego. What is the real ego? The real ego is Jivera Swarupahaya Krishna Ranityadas. The soul, living entity, is the eternal servant, Krishna Ranityadas, eternal servant of Lord Krishna. To know that this is our real identity, this is real ego, this is not bad. False ego is bad. False ego is duplicate ego. False gold. If we buy false gold, we are not buying real gold. So if we have false ego, we don't have real ego, the right ego. In the Vedic literature, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 1.4.10, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma, I am spirit. This I am, the sense of self, also exists in liberated states of self-realization. So I is used here. I is used here. Although I am is used here, this is I am Brahmasmi. I'm the part of the Supreme Brahma. This is self-realization. This is liberated stage of self-realization. Jivera Swarupa Hoya Krishna Ranityadas. This sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. So same I am, if I am is applied to the false body, the material body, this is false ego. When it is applied to the real ego, it is for self-realization. When the sense of self is applied to reality, That is real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should not give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego. Sorry, there are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego. Some philosophers say that we should give up our individuality. Ego means individuality also. We should give up and we should merge into Brahma effulgence. And Prabhupada says here, we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. So please remember, false ego is bad. Real ego is not bad. Real ego is our identity. What is our identity? We are spirit soul. Jivera Sarupa Haya Krishna Nityadas. The living entity is an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. That is our real identity. This is ego. This ego is good. And we shouldn't get rid of our ego by merging into Brahma effulgence. Continuing reading. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with the body. One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of the unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother is its suffering. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of the unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We don't make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. When we was lying in a very congested place in the mother's womb, we were suffering there. We have to remain in one position, very uncomfortable, very dark. The worms in the stomach might bite us. That's a trouble even before we come out to this world. And at that time, it is said in the Shastra that the soul prays to God, God, if you make me free, if I can get out of this difficult, very uncomfortable situation, I will become your devotee, my dear Lord. That's how the soul in the womb prays to God. But when the soul comes out to this world, he gets some love and affection, the false love and affection, and forgets about God. So birth is very distressful. We don't make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. We forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We don't make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed. As far as disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased, and no one wants to be old. No one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding these. Who wants to get sick? Who wants to get disease? Who wants to get old? Who wants to die? Nobody. But we cannot avoid those things. They just come and embrace us without wanting, without desiring, without our uh, agreement. They just attack us, those things. So what is the remedy? The remedy is Krishna consciousness. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life. Unless one sees how difficult this material world is, one cannot get impetus for making advancement in spiritual life. As for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these. They are natural objects of affection, but they are not favorable to spiritual progress. Then one should not become attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy, because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These four things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the family members, they have to practice Krishna consciousness jointly. Instead of leaving family or home, they can use the home and family to chant Hare Krishna. If one can mold his life, his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these four principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then the family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize our service. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjun did. Arjun did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world one can never be fully happy or fully miserable. What Prabhupada says that don't live family life, but don't be indulged in temporary happiness or distress. Don't be overjoyed when you get happiness, and don't take stress when you get distress. Be equilibrium, because the material happiness and distress are permanent. Matra sparshasta kaunteya. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy, and when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc., as described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That process should be followed. Naturally, when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. Solitary place means it's not literally going to jungle or some isolated place. Solitary place means how long can we live by ignoring our friends and family who are not in Krishna consciousness? And naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or cinema going or enjoying some social function, because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject, but according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculation have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self. That is recommended here. As far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is specially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the bhakti conception. The devotional conception of life, this service of individual soul to the supreme soul, is eternal, nityam, as it is clearly stated. So bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, this is explained. Va vadanti tat tattva vidastatvam yajnanam advayam. Those who are actually knowers of the Those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in three different phases as Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Bhagwan is the last word in the realization of absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in devotional service of the Lord. That is the perfection of knowledge. Beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the Supreme Truth, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, this process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground level and going up to the top floor. Now, on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second or the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at all, he is at all, he is, but unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. Compete with God. What does it mean? One example is when God is enjoying, compete with God means to try to become God, to try to be famous like God, etc. So we must not compete to become God. Otherwise, we will be frustrated. It is said here. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. So even understanding is not possible without being humble. To think oneself God is most puffed up, although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks, I'm God because of ignorance. They say, I'm God. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth. So that's the end of the purport. Thank you so much for listening. This purport is very long, but it's very important. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.